to Clarity on Fire, a podcast for people who know what they don't want out of their life and career, but aren't sure what they'd rather be doing.
In a world where it's easy to exist, but hard to feel alive, we, Kristen
and Rachel,
two certified life and career coaches, are here to help you cut through the information overload, get unstuck, and focus not just on how you can have a career you're passionate about, but how to create a whole life that feels fulfilling.
So join us here, where we serve up inspiration and down-to-earth wisdom in a way that only two best friends can.
We want you to experience the relief of knowing that, yes, you're allowed to want more out of your life and career.
And no, you don't have to wander through the dark anymore. Our job is to light the fire that shows you the way. Let's go.
Hello. Hey. We have to start by reminding you today's the last day that we're taking applications for new coaching clients.
Yep. And,
and to be honest, I don't know how many spots we have because we're recording this in advance. So we may or may not have many spots left, but we are still accepting applications through today. And then
after that, get on the wait list.
Yeah. And then we just don't know. We can't promise when we'll be able to work with you. So, reminder about that, because not only is it the last day, but it's also the last day for the foreseeable future, or maybe ever, that we are offering our 3-month coaching option.
Yeah.
Typically, we only offer our 6-month option, which is really the full experience of coaching. But we wanted to bring back the 3-month option just because that might be more accessible for some people. It's also a little bit of a celebratory way of, I don't know. We've been coaches for so long. We're doing our 10-year anniversary pretty much all year, this whole year. So we're just doing some cool stuff.
Are we?
It's one of the things we're doing.
All year? I thought it was just this month. This is news to me. I can't party that long or that hard. I don't know what you're talking about.
We were going to do our Tinfinity.
Well, it is a Tinfinity, but
and that's not going to be this month. So it's going to to be later in the year. So we're just going to extend the anniversary celebration.
Oh, okay. Well, as long as I don't have to do that much work, I'm fine with that.
No, it's not.
Party planning is not my specialty.
No, the way we celebrate, it's not with more work. The way we celebrate is just with things we like. And we thought it's not more work on our part to just give you another option, but you guys might like that. So that's happening through today. After today, that's not an option anymore. And we can't tell you if or when it will ever be an option. So if that's something really appealing to you, then
get on it.
Jump on that today.
We'll talk a little bit more about this at the end, because I think this episode will naturally lead us back to where we started. Okay, so I promised that, I guess I should just say, in case they're like, yes, wait, I want to do that. How? Well, I don't know. Go to the show notes. There's a link in the show notes, or you can just go to clarityonfire.com and go to the work with us page and click on one-on-one coaching. That's
also, if you haven't been to our new site yet, do it just to check out our new look.
Make sure it works too.
Make sure it works. Yeah. Well, I think by now we know it works pretty well. But if you find any weird glitches, let us know, because we're still in the tinkering phase.
We're still in the ironing out the kinks phase.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's how you do it, if you couldn't figure that one out yourself.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I promised that we would talk about this last week, because I have this list of ways to love and keep your job for years and years, that I actually emailed this out to our list a few months ago. And I was like, this is a really solid list. It needs more than a paragraph for each one of these. Like, we need to actually expound upon this. So as we've said, you and I have been doing this for a decade, and we can't really believe when we zoom out that we've been able to do a job for 10 years.
I never imagined myself to be able to do that. I mean, we were the people who couldn't stay in a job for 2 years before moving on because we were so miserable.
I don't think we ever stayed in a job for 2 years. I never made it to 24 months.
I got close once,
but you never. But
I don't think I actually made it to the 2 year mark.
No. Okay.
And the last 6 months I was mentally checked out anyway, so barely counts.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I would never have had it. If you counted
when you were mentally checked out, I don't know. Maybe we never worked.
I never worked. I got like a couple days or something, or a week maybe of
So
work
the fact
experience.
that we've done the same job for 10 years
Mhm.
and are still interested in continuing it, that's pretty wild. That means we figured something out.
Okay, so I will spare you the exhaustive list of everything we've ever quit, because we actually did an episode about that already back in October 2020.
Yeah, it warrants a whole episode. You don't need to hear us say all of that again. It's a lot of things.
Yeah, it's called Bonus Side Chat, All the Embarrassing Things We've Quit. So I can link to that, but you can go back and listen if you want to hear all of the jobs and all of the things we've ever quit. Because yeah, it's a lot of things.
I promise it's a little bit more relevant to you too. It's not just like, hi, here, I quit this and then I quit this.
No,
There's more of a message there, but it is a funny list.
So we never did anything long enough to I don't know, to like learn hardly anything or to get anything out of it or to achieve anything. The only thing we got out of it was, I know I hate this. Like every job I ever did was like, I did it long enough to know I don't want to do this.
Right.
That was about it.
So then you have to kind of start again with the next thing, because obviously I don't want to do more of that thing.
Okay, so really the thesis of this episode is like, how do two people who are, I don't know, practically allergic to employment end up doing a job for 10 years? That doesn't make sense. Okay, but I made a list.
It does make sense when we lay it out, and these things are going to apply to you. It's not just about starting a business. I don't want you to think, oh, you just have to quit a job and start a business and that's how you stick with it for a long time. Not at all.
No, this is not like a pyramid scheme episode where we're like, you too can
become a coach and start a business. There are those coaches though, who their whole spiel is, I just make coaches, like turn my clients into coaches, and then they turn their clients into coaches. It's a whole thing. That's not what we're doing here.
No, I don't think all of you need to be coaches. It's not all of you probably, would like it or are made for it.
Definitely not.
You got other things you might be good at or enjoy.
Not all of you should be any one thing.
No, we shouldn't. Okay, so this list is in no particular order. I don't want you to think that if something's on the top, that means it's better, or I don't know. This was the order in which it came to me when I was writing this list. Okay. So the thing number one on my list is that we pursued something we actually gave a damn about.
There's a reason that we didn't use the word that we were passionate about here.
Yes.
That's
for sure
not necessarily what we're talking about, is go find your passion. The very cliche advice that frankly I hate. That's all over the internet. Just find your passion and you'll never work a day in your life. No, that's not what we're talking about. We're just saying doing work that actually is interesting to you. That is actually, you feel like there's a point to why you're showing up every day. You're like, okay, I can get behind that. Right? I'm not saying you have to be the most deeply passionate about your work, because we're going to get into passion profiles in a second. That's actually not right for everyone. But making sure you actually care at all about what you're doing, that maybe helps. I did many jobs where I could not care enough to even really learn what I needed to learn to do the job. So I just figured out workarounds. Like, that's how little I cared. That's not a good strategy.
More of your energy was being spent in avoiding the work than actually just doing the work.
Because it was so boring. If you're that bored by your job, that's a problem. If you don't care at all, that's a problem. It's not sustainable.
Yeah. If you feel your life force oozing out of you with every second that you spend doing something, obviously we have a problem. And the whole, pursue something you give a damn about seems like this is so obvious. Why are you even saying it? I'll tell you why. Because a lot of people have not given themselves permission to pursue something they give a damn about. Mm-hmm. They are trapped in a job that is stealing their life force because they think this is my only option, or I can't make money doing something I care about. Insert any number of limiting beliefs or, bad programming that we've got that keeps people stuck in jobs they don't like.
But then because you don't like it, you burn out on it, and then you go find another one, probably of the same job, and then burn out on that one. We know this whole spiel. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. In the short term, it maybe makes you feel a little bit safer because it's familiar. but it's not going to get you where you ultimately want to go. So if you give yourself permission to say, what if I actually cared about what I was doing? Again, not the purpose of my existence on the planet. That's a whole other point we'll get into. But what if I actually cared? What if I could get behind it? What if it was interesting to me? Mm-hmm. That's going to lead you to something you might actually want to stick with for more than a year or two.
Okay, this leads me to number two. Thing number two. We learned the hard way that a job is not a white knight. Back to Kristen's point about find your passion is stupid advice. I thought for a very long time that if you just found a job you were passionate about, it would solve all of your problems. Mm-hmm. And that could not be more wrong.
Yeah. If you expect to get your quote unquote dream job and then never have to think about, is this what I want to keep doing, or never have a bad day, or just feel like that's going to solve everything.
Deliver all of your happiness, meet all of your emotional needs.
That's, first of all, that's what we call codependence.
I will die on this hill. Okay. That in relationships, when we have a partner and we rely on them entirely to deliver all of our happiness, we expect them to meet all of our emotional needs, just them, right? We call that codependence. And when we're talking about it in terms of career, we call it find your passion. And
so crazy.
It's so messed up.
Yeah. It's not healthy to expect a job to come in and swoop down and give you everything you need and make every working day blissful. It's also not realistic. So if you expect that, even if you get a job that's a really good fit for you, you're going to have bad days and now start to doubt everything. Yeah. Is this really right? No. Just because you have a bad day does not mean it's wrong. Yeah, just like anyone who's married, you have days when you're like, did I marry the right person? Oh no. And you doubt everything because you just got in a big fight. Does that mean it's a terrible marriage? No. This is true of every relationship, and we get that. But we, for some reason, think a job
is not a relationship.
It is. I mean, truly it is. It's a relationship to the people you work with.
Yep.
And the work that you are doing and who is ultimately helping. It's all about people anyway. Same thing applies. So you're going to have bad days, even in a job that's a really good fit for you. And that's okay.
And if you think that that's not normal, then it's going to ruin your experience of even the good parts. And your unrealistic, super high expectations are just going to sour your whole experience of something that could be good. So no, a job is not a white knight.
No. And if you, there's a lot of problems around this one, but if you consider your job to be a white knight that makes you never have to question your career again, that's actually also not healthy. Because if you think of it as this will save me from my career stuckness, mm-hmm. or my directionlessness, and I'll never have to think about it again. I'll just know this is right, and I'll just keep doing this forever. That's going to lead to you stagnating. That means you never get to evolve. And it's like, you don't want something as big as your career to be set it and forget it.
This reminds me a lot of the conversation we recently had in our Patreon community on our Dear Rachel, or not Dear Rachel, our quarterly Rachel live hangout that we do on Zoom. One of our patrons and one of Kristen's former clients was being very honest about the dark phase that her marriage has gone through, and they've come out the other side. But she said, I had to get to the point where I was willing to let it go. That like, I knew that what I wanted more than anything was to be in a happy, healthy, really connected relationship. And that was my goal, not necessarily with him. Hope that it's with him. But if it's not, I know I'm going to be okay either way. Yeah. And I think that if you get married and you think, oh, great, now I don't have to worry about, like, check that box off the list. Now I don't have to worry about being content or being happy or it, like, nope, because then life is going to throw you for a loop and something is going to go wrong. And or not go wrong, but something's going to break down that needs to break through or heal. And if you don't see that as a normal part of life, and if you're not willing to weather that, then you're going to have a really hard, you're going to break, like you're going to shatter. And that might be okay. You might need for that to happen in order for you to heal. But I think if you go into things with the expectation that they will change and they will evolve, and sometimes they will get hard, and that doesn't mean something has gone wrong. That means that sometimes something is actually being set up to go right. Then you have a much more healthy relationship with anything.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because then you're not in a relationship or in a career with a white knight on a pedestal.
Yeah.
Who, if they fall, now you question everything. Now you're actually in a relationship or in a career with a real human or a real organization who is flawed, but they're doing their best and you're doing your best. And if you go in with that expectation, then you don't expect anyone or anything to deliver unending happiness to you, because you know sometimes things are going to go off the rails. Sometimes I'm going to change. Sometimes they're going to change. We're going to have to evolve together.
Or not.
Or not.
And that's okay too.
That's okay too. Doesn't mean it was wrong.
Another word for that is maturity. Like emotional maturity.
And healthy expectations.
Yeah. So if you're not that emotionally mature, you will expect a person or a job to deliver all of your needs.
This is why all of us at age 13 or 14 have undying crushes on whoever in our classroom or whatever celebrity of the moment. And we think they're just the pinnacle of perfection. Mm-hmm. And then you grow into an adult and you're like, oh no, people are flawed.
Sure, but don't tell me I can't still crush on celebrities.
Always, but we just have to know what it is.
But I know that if I met them in person, it would be a whole different ballgame.
Exactly. Okay.
So number 3, how long are we going to talk about this one, Kristen? We discovered our passion profile. Okay.
First of all,
we have a whole course about this.
We have a whole course about this. We have many episodes just about this. We will link to some of them. But at the end of the day, the reason we keep harping on this whole concept of passion profiles, and we have for, 8 years now, is because it makes such a big difference to get really clear on how you're meant to work. Even if you're doing something that maybe you do give a damn about it, and maybe it is a really good fit for your interests and your personality, but you're doing it in a way that doesn't work with how you are meant to work or with your values around work, then you've just lost the whole game. So you could actually figure out what you want to do, but then go about it in a way that doesn't fit you. And now
think, I guess I hate this.
The whole thing will feel broken.
Yeah.
For example, because I know that this is kind of an intangible concept. Let's just say you really love photography. And you decide, like, I want to spend my days photographing.
I
was going to say photographizing.
Wow.
Photographing, taking photographs of, capturing moments.
Doing the photography. the photography.
How many ways can
Are you
I screw up this word? Woo. And you decide, that's what I want to do. I'm going to spend my days just capturing important moments in people's lives. But then you go and you work for a big event organization and they tell you where to go take photographs.
Yeah, go take pictures of the annual fried chicken convention. And you're like,
don't love that. That's kind of killing it for me. I'm going to take pictures of what I want to take pictures of. You might need more independence around the thing you want to do in order to enjoy it.
You want to know what else is emotionally immature? Here I am. You know me. I'm just like kind of annoyed right now. And so then I'm calling people out. I don't even know if they deserve to be called out for being immature, but it just feels immature to me. And also I'm calling out a younger version of myself. So this thing that's legit.
Really what's happening.
Yeah. This is legit. It's also emotionally immature to think that if you love something enough, it will overcome every obstacle in your way. If I love photography enough, it will transcend the fried chicken convention. That's not no. I don't think about this. Okay. you can't love a person enough to transcend their trauma if they're not willing to work through their trauma. Now, a lot of you be trying to do that. And we call that anxious attachment. And there's a whole other episode we could get into about attachment styles, right? But like, no, you don't have to love something enough for it to overcome every misalignment in your way.
This would be like, I know we always compare relationships to careers, but it's such a good comparison.
Reason.
So
have an episode about that too. Our next, our listen to this next section in this episode is going to be like 20 episodes deep, but okay.
But I think when you compare it to something else, we have a very different view of certain kinds of relationships, but we don't translate that over. So when you make the comparison, it makes it so much more obvious.
It really helps.
Why we shouldn't be treating careers so differently. Anyway, if we're thinking about love of something, passion for something, transcending context, that would be like saying, I love this person so much. We have this deep chemistry and this deep connection, but they adamantly do not want kids. And I adamantly do want kids. And they really want to live in another country. And I really want to live in my hometown. But our love will transcend those things.
Yeah, you're going to hate that person in about 6 months.
Exactly. Because the structure of the relationship that you want to be in is wildly different. There are major deal breakers there. So even though you may really and truly love that person, there's not sustainability there because you're going to disagree fundamentally on big values around how you build your life. The same is true in your career.
Yeah.
If you love photography, but you need way more independence and somebody's telling you where to go and when to do things.
Yeah. Colonel Sanders at 3:00. You take a portrait of him.
Right.
Like, you're like, no, this is not what I signed up for.
It will potentially kill your passion.
Yeah, will almost definitely kill your passion.
So the how.
And then you'll be like, I don't like photography. That's what will happen.
How many times have we seen that?
I mean, I'm not
or felt that.
It's not a theory. It's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
You will then start questioning what you thought you knew you loved.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Just like in that marriage, you're going to start to resent that person. All of a sudden, you're going to feel like I don't love them. No, you just were misaligned on your values. And
also you
shined
guys
a big spotlight on the disconnections.
And you also don't love each other as much as you think you do, because loving a person also means like deeply sharing, I think, their value system too. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I think if you don't love someone, like if you love someone, but you don't want to live in the same place as them and you don't want to have kids.
A little different.
Yeah. I think you're like, well, you actually don't like who you are as much as you think you do. Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's okay.
And
there's no judgment there. It just means you're probably not supposed to be together.
Not a fit.
Yeah.
Same thing here.
I mean, that's one of the reasons Kristen and I could do this job for a decade, is because every other job we ever had was for someone else. The only thing that really changed, well, I mean, there was a lot of other things that changed. Like, I was a nanny. I worked at a law firm. I worked at a investment firm. I've worked at the outlet mall. Like, I've done a lot of jobs in my life. Coaching is obviously very different than any of those things. It harkens back to number one. I give a damn about it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But the biggest difference between any of the jobs I've had and this one is that I am my own boss. And so because the structure works for me, the freedom, the independence, the autonomy, the ability to choose what I work on, the ability to set my own schedule completely, even though there's more risk, even though there's more instability, I am perfectly okay with those shit sandwiches because the context really works for me. And so I don't resent it. And so even when I'm having bad days, it's easier for me to weather them because I see what I'm getting out of it.
But this goes back to one of our earlier points too, which is why we don't advocate everybody go quit their job and start their own business.
It's not everyone's a fire starter.
That may not fit well with your passion profile. Or even if you did, you might need a very, very different structure of business than somebody, a thriver business owner and a fire starter business owner. Very different ways of approaching that. And some of them are not going to be suited to entrepreneurship at all. So if I've actually seen the opposite. You're talking about working for other people was a deal breaker for you and you didn't really love what you did until you had autonomy. I've seen a lot of people thinking that they should go off on their own and do their own thing and start to feel so much pressure and start to feel so much uncertainty and lack of community because they're on their own. That kind of kills it. What they actually need is to go find a really good team.
Yeah.
So we got to figure out your passion profile because that's a really big factor in the mix. How you're doing it, that's going to lead to that long-term commitment and sustainability in whatever you're doing.
And I don't mean long-term commitment to one thing.
We're not saying you stay in the same job
for a decade. No, you don't have to do that. But it does mean a long-term commitment to what works for me. And what works for you over time can change. It's gonna, on the surface, it'll look different from over the years.
More like a trajectory that you stay on.
Yeah.
But the actual stops along the way might be different.
Yeah. And that's okay. And like, hey, Kristen and I have been doing this job for a decade, but this job has changed a lot.
Since that first year. Yeah. It's a little different.
Right. So
and that's okay. That's actually probably part of it, frankly. If it was the exact same
I would have
for 10 years, even if you loved it, it would get boring. There needs to be some kind of evolution.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's not even on the list.
No, but that's like 0.6.5.
Okay. All right. So again, we harp on passion profiles a lot, but it is our whole bag. So if somehow this is the first you're hearing of it, go to Clarity on Fire, take the quiz, discover your passion profile. I will link to an episode where we debrief all 4 of them if you want to hear more about that. And we also have a whole course about it. It's called the Passion Profile Short Course. It's meant to be done in, like you could treat it like a day-long workshop if you want to. Mm-hmm. And let me just say one last thing about passion profiles. We recommend you figuring out how you want to work before you figure out what you want to do. Because
it's not the sexy answer. I know. I mean, like everybody wants to answer the question, what am I going to do? What am I passionate about?
But we just proved to you it doesn't matter if you figure out that you love photography. Great, cool. How are you going to do it? If you have no idea, you're going to spend a lot of wasted time. Maybe I'll start a business, even though you're actually completely unsuited to entrepreneurship, right? Like if you first figure out your passion profile and you figure out the context in which you want to live and work. Okay, I am a fire starter. I know that is what is going to work for me. Then your options get immediately narrowed down by 75%. Like anything that doesn't align with that is now just, you get to throw it off of your list. And now you get to pursue far more high quality ideas and options of what could work for you. And more than one thing could likely work. It doesn't have to be just one thing.
Yep. So if you are one of those people, which many of you are, because I hear from a lot of you, who feel like you're struggling to answer that question, what am I really passionate about? What do I want to do? Figuring out
on that.
Your passion profile is actually going to make answering that other question a million times easier.
Yeah.
Because like Rachel said, you cross off like 75% of things. Now you have a much more narrow view of what you might be attracted to. It's so much easier to answer the what.
Yeah.
It's just not where anybody wants to start.
No, because we're impatient and immature. Sorry.
This is the theme. I mean, humans are impatient.
And immature.
Sure.
Listen, I'm not saying anything that I haven't been. Okay. I'm not still, I still am some days.
It's funny because we relate too hard, maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Number 4, we started creating healthy boundaries with work. Okay. I've thought about quitting many times. Like, I don't want you to think that because we've worked for a decade, that means that we've never in a day in our life questioned it or wanted to quit.
Many days.
I've just never done it. I've just never gotten to the point where I actually like pulled the cord on it.
Because usually when we individually or together, because it happens, sometimes we go into doubt mode together, which is real fun.
Well, one kind of like triggers the other into doubt. And then there we go.
Or we're just in a weird business slump. And so we both are reacting at the same time. I mean, it's fun. We can sometimes pull each other out and sometimes we can pull each other down. And that's just part of it.
Like any relationship.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But we are wise enough, and it helps be coaches who can self-evaluate, reflect, to get to the core of what's really behind the impulse to quit everything. Yeah. And it's almost always, no, I would say it's always, so far, it's always been, there's some kind of boundary that got stepped over and I'm feeling overwhelmed. And I hit a breaking point. Yep. So sometimes it's, I feel overly responsible for too many people and too many people's energy. We're highly sensitive. So in order to really do our job well, we deeply, deeply go into each person's stuff. If you have too many people that you're doing that with, at some point, you don't have anything left over. Your tank is drained. So to do this kind of work and do it as well as we do, we have to put boundaries around how many people we can work with, because energetically, I want to be fully present. And if I can't be, that's not serving me or you. So we've had to put boundaries around, I can have this many calls a week. I can have this many clients at any given time. And if we go over those boundaries, it's quickly going to spiral into, do I even want to do this anymore?
It happened so many times in our history that we just didn't know any better, right? Like I would have 5 calls in a day and like multiple of them would be back to back with no breaks in between. And we were trying so hard to hustle and build a business that I would just be like, I hate this.
I want to quit coaching.
And once again, I'm sorry, it was immature. It was emotionally unevolved. I'm not saying it's immature in that like the behavior was immature. I'm saying that it was immature in the sense that I was blaming something. I was reacting to something without understanding where it was really coming from. There was a lack
the reaction of like, was warranted.
Yes. There was a lack of like mental evolution where I didn't understand where my feelings were really coming from. And so when you have healthy boundaries, this is one of the first things you can do if you don't know if you hate your job or not. And a lot of people start out thinking they hate their job and not really knowing if it's them or the job. One of the best things you can do is to firm up your boundaries. Like if you have a 40-hour week job and you're working 50, hey, how would you feel about your job if you went back to working 40? What if you have a work from home policy, but you don't take advantage of it as much because you're a people pleaser? What if you did fully take advantage of it? What if you did leave at 5? What if you refuse to answer emails after a certain hour? What if you turn down the request for overtime? Like there are so many. What if you said, I'm not available for stupid ass meetings that I don't need to be a part of? There are countless boundaries that you could probably set that would gain you energy back. And with that energy restored, you might have a very different perspective on whether or not you actually like or hate your job or anything in between.
Yeah, this bleeds so beautifully into our next point. Yeah, which is about don't blame your job for things that aren't its fault. So to
this is another immature thing. You know what this all is? It's a list of why I'm immature and how I got over it. That's what this is. Like,
but this is such a good, succinct way of saying where we left off in the last one. Don't blame your job for your lack of boundaries.
Yeah,
that's not the job's fault. If you have better boundaries, the job might be a much better fit for you.
That's very true.
There's a lot of things we blame our job for. It's really not the job's fault, but that's a big one. Especially people-pleasing boundaries.
Yes. Oh, this point about don't blame your job for things that aren't its fault isn't just about boundaries. That's just
one example.
This is about personally, this is about my experience of whenever I was feeling emotionally fraught or confused or unsure of myself at all, I would sort of have a feeling and then I would immediately want to understand where the feeling came from. And I would immediately backtrack and assume the problem must be about my job, which is so stupid. But that's what would go through my mind is like, if only I was doing work I enjoyed more, I wouldn't feel this way or like whatever. And the truth is all of my emotional ups and downs cannot possibly have been my job's fault, right? Like I'm human. There are a lot of reasons I'm probably having emotional ups and downs. And so when I stopped reverse engineering my emotions and assuming they were all about work became easier to keep doing without wanting to quit.
I think we all, and maybe it changes in different phases of life. I think we all have that thing that we blame stuff on when we go into a funk.
Oh, 100%.
For some people,
or we
immediately
ping pong between like two.
Yeah.
Right. It's either because I'm single or it's because I hate my job or whatever.
Right. It's either because I'm not living where I want to live, or it's because
my mother-in-law's a bitch.
Right. Exactly. I mean, it could be it could be your weight. It could be your health.
I mean, sure. I do that too with my face. Well, with my body image, dysmorphia, Yeah. Like must be because I'm ugly or something.
So you're in a bad mood and you have your go-to thing that you blame. If that were different or that were better, I wouldn't be in this funk. No, you're in a funk because you're a human and sometimes you have down days.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe there are things that you could look at in your job. Maybe there are things that you could look at to make healthy changes. But on those days, that's not the day.
On the funky days?
On the funky days,
No.
no, that's not the day. You got to recognize I'm going to have my go-to thing that I blame for all my troubles.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no way it's just my job's fault. There's no way it's just my partner's fault.
Mm-hmm.
Just my kid's fault, whatever it is.
Yep. I have a client right now who I had to give some tough love to, and she was very receptive to it, thankfully. Most people who work with me are, because they kind of know what they're getting. And they want it, like that's part of why they're there. But she is one of those people, and I have been this person who she feels very out of control about other things in her life. And so she's doubling down on trying to control her career. So what often will happen when you're blaming things, you're blaming how you feel on your career, is that you're actually having a lot of chaos or a lot of turmoil or a lot of uncertainty in other areas of your life. But because you feel unable to control those things like how your marriage is going, for example, or maybe you're struggling with fertility, right? There's so many things that you might be struggling with that are genuinely hard and you have no control over them, that it feels like this is a thing I could do something about.
Mm-hmm.
And so we will double down on the things we think we can control in a way to make ourselves feel better. And so then when we're actually upset because our marriage is struggling, because we can't do anything about it, we will actually have an episode about this. It's called problem transfiguration.
Mm-hmm.
And we will transfigure the problem into, oh, this must be about my career. I must be feeling sad, or I must be feeling frustrated because of this. And then I will laser focus on that as a way to feel control.
Yep. We do this to a ton of things. Like we said, you can do that. You can blame it on health or blame it on anything. But the careers are really a really popular scapegoat. My theory is because we spend so much time there. And when you're spending 8 hours of your day or big chunks of your day or big chunks of your week at doing one particular thing, that's a really easy scapegoat to say, must be that.
Well, and you can actually do something about it. You could quit in a way that it's like, well, I can't change my husband. Like, as much as I'm like begging him to go to therapy, he won't do it. I could quit my job though. I can't force my husband's ass to sit down with a therapist. I could quit my job.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't, I'm struggling with fertility. I can't get pregnant. It breaks my heart. I could quit my job.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like,
we feel like there's a little bit more control.
Yeah.
Now, whether or not that's
true,
but that's how it feels. And so for a lot of reasons, it's a common scapegoat. It's a common thing that we'll just pour all of our angst onto the career. And we're blaming it for stuff it really has no control over.
Yes. You are a complicated human, and your feelings come from so many different places. They come from how much sleep you've got, to how hydrated you are, to your hormones that week or that month, to what's going on in your family relationships, what's going on, the weather, for God's sake, right? Like, there are a million different reasons that contribute to how you're feeling, and your career is one of them. And so if you find yourself constantly nitpicking your career or constantly nitpicking one particular area of your life, that in and of itself is a red flag that you're probably placing way too much blame on your humanity on this one thing. And that's not healthy.
Yeah. If you can just back up and say, probably not just my career's fault. Probably not just that one thing. Then you can see it with a little bit more objectivity, and you're not going to be so likely to want to quit every time you get in a bad mood.
Right. Because you learn how to accept that, okay, I'm a human, I'm in flux. It's okay that I have bad moods. Again, it's okay that I might be struggling. And if I've latched on to my career as, if I can make this perfect, then I will be able to solve my emotions. Ooh, are you in for a really wild, very unfulfilling ride? However, if you don't think that your job has to solve your feelings, it can have its ups and downs, and you can ride those waves and you'll be all right without necessarily needing to throw it all in.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
This last one is
number
big.
6.
This is big. And this took a while to really,
once again,
settle this into my bones.
Immature
we no longer think our job is our identity. Oh, I see this so much. People over identifying with the work that they do, which makes them feel really stuck in something. And if they no longer feel connected to it, it creates an existential crisis. If I over related to what I do, and for some reason that doesn't feel very good anymore, who am I?
Yeah.
Who am I if I'm not a doctor anymore? Who am I if I'm not a business owner anymore? When you have that level of identity wrapped up in what you do, that is a prison.
Mm-hmm.
You have trapped yourself in having to keep doing that to keep being who you understand yourself to be. And that is dangerous.
You have to keep proving it too to other people, because when your job is your identity, it's a way for you to prove how smart you are or how capable you are or how likable you are. Then yeah, you're trapped, because every day is a new day to wake up blank slate and go, hustle for worthiness all over again. It's exhausting.
It's dangerous if you are over-identifying with the work you're already doing, because again, then you can't make any change. You can't evolve. It's also dangerous. I see people who, what they want is to have work that they can identify them as. So what they're seeking, they don't feel it yet.
They
they're
want
like,
an identity.
The answer is, I want my career to give me an identity.
Yeah, because I don't know who I am.
That's also real dangerous, which means
also immature.
Right. Partially, you're probably treating it like a white knight, just to harken back to that one.
This is a Venn diagram of, this is an Olympic rings situation.
Yes,
These
they all overlap. So that's one of the kind of dangerous ways of over-identifying with it. It also means you probably don't feel solid enough in who you are, that you're hoping a title will make you feel more like a whole person.
Yeah.
That's also real dangerous.
Yeah. That's not an identity. A job is not an identity. I don't care what the Bachelor told you or the Bachelorette, like, hi, I'm a dental hygienist. Nope, that's not an identity. I know nothing about you. Absolutely nothing. Like, I don't know what you care about. I don't know what your values are. I don't know what lights you up. I don't know what makes you feel energized or creative. I don't know what makes you cry. I don't know anything about you, really. Nothing that matters.
None of your titles should be your identity. The fact that you are a parent, the fact that you are a social worker, the fact that you are a Minnesotan, the fact that you are whatever you are, none of that speaks to who you are. And so we have to separate what you do from who you are. If you can answer the question, this is me, and I also like to do this, I spend my time doing this, that is a really healthy relationship to work. But it takes a while to get there.
Yeah. And how about this? This is who I am. And this is one way that I express that.
For now.
For now. Yeah.
Not even convinced I'm going to do it forever.
Right. I'm creative. I'm funny. I'm smart. I have a passion for helping people. And right now, the way that I express that is through coaching. For now, I could quit.
Now, this took us a while.
Yeah.
I wanted coaching to help me feel more like I had an identity.
Like a person?
Yes. And that quickly didn't work. I was like, well, I found the thing that I really do love, and I still don't feel like that delivered me a fully developed identity. I guess I got to do that on my own.
Yeah, because you still take yourself with you into that new job, and you're like, oh, wait, I still have insecurity shit.
Yeah,
I still don't know how to express myself. I still don't actually have an easy time having an opinion. Oops, this didn't make me more interesting.
Yeah, a really difficult question, but important question. Who am I if I never worked another day in my life?
Oh, some of y'all be having panic attacks right now.
I can feel the anxiety rising.
I'd be like, oh, let me tell you. How long do you got?
Fact, I might be the best me if I never worked another day in my life.
It's possible.
The thriver side's coming out. Yeah, that's a question most people don't know how to answer, which is why the tendency is to over-relate to work.
Like, I'm fine if we do end up quitting all of this one day.
Yeah.
I'm not going to see the past decade as a failure if we quit.
No, I'm like, we did good work.
It was a success.
I can pack it up and be like, Good job, Kristen.
But
We did great.
I don't have to do the same thing forever in order to be
now,
myself.
I want to keep doing it. But for that, I don't want that to have to continue for me to feel like a whole person.
No, I can, like, sometimes, in fact, some things have to change.
Yes.
Completely in order for you to keep being yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes you got to quit that job or you got to leave that marriage or whatever in order for you to keep being your actual self.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm comfortable with that. I'm comfortable with, well, I mean, I'm not saying in the moment it's always comfortable. I'm comfortable with the knowledge and the concept that things will change. And sometimes in order for me to keep being myself, I'm going to have to go through a reckoning or a breakdown of something, or I'm going to have to quit. In the moment, that might feel like chaos, or that might feel like grief. And that would be okay too, because that's very human. But ultimately, I'm not actually attached to whether I do this for the rest of my life or not, because I trust that I'm a human with a wide variety of talents and desires and interests. And that right now it's manifesting in this way, but later on it could manifest in a slightly different, way. And then that's the right thing for me to do.
Mm-hmm. This is why people who haven't come to that understanding, you might have seen your parents' generation, your grandparents' generation go into retirement and get depressed.
Yeah. Right.
And lose a whole sense of who am I and lose their purpose. I know I saw that in some of my grandparents. Actually, one set of my grandparents, they were like chilling. They did not over-identify with work.
They love it.
Love in retirement, living their best lives. Other set, they didn't know what to do with themselves. They were lost.
They floundered.
Lost after they retired, because who am I without this job? It's dangerous. It's really dangerous.
Yep.
And you can see that effect most widely in that population, but it also happens with a parent who stops working to stay home with their kid for a while and they don't know who they are.
I've seen that
anymore.
For sure.
So we got to answer that question now before you go into a life circumstance where you're going to get hit
or you
really hard with an existential crisis.
You have a health crisis and you can't work for a while or something. I've seen that too. I mean,
or you get laid off and you're unemployed for a little while. That happens.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a hard thing. All these are hard things to go through, and they're natural transitions.
But they won't be as devastating if your identity isn't wrapped up in your job.
Right. You can just experience the grief or the uncertainty, but not the, oh my gosh,
crushing existential weight of not knowing who you are. Yeah, that.
Just that.
Okay, so those are the 6 things. But this is by no means an exhaustive list. This is just our list. Like, these are the things that have made it possible for us to do a job for a decade. And like it, not even love it every day.
I mean, we could have gone into all the reasons our clients, our friends have
wanted to quit their jobs,
or why they stuck with them. But, we had to cut it off somewhere.
But I mean, if you want a little teaser of like why some of the people we've worked with have up and quit, even if maybe they shouldn't have, I think people pleasing is a huge one.
Oh,
right.
That one all the time. That's part of that boundaries.
Yeah, they're in environments that so badly trigger them that they just run away, basically.
Or they let their people-pleasing tendencies have them take on way too much, and then they're overwhelmed, and then
the only escape they see is just,
I can't do it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I think also people quit or can't, hold down a job for very long because it's triggering their trauma. Like, I think a lot of people bring their attachment issues to their boss.
Oh, for sure.
They bring their mommy or their daddy issues and they project them onto their work authority figure. And then all of a sudden they can't, they just can't do it because they haven't worked through their baggage.
Mm-hmm. I also think we're horrible on the whole as humans at interpreting each other correctly. And so often our own insecurities will have us interpret other people in ways that may be completely inaccurate and wreck a potentially healthy relationship just because we imagined that they were thinking things about us that they may have never once thought.
Once again, that's kind of immature to not know what's your baggage and what you're projecting onto other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, projection can definitely screw up a good thing.
This whole episode kind of just boils down to, it means one thing. Your job might be the problem. Like, if you're struggling right now and you feel the urge to quit and you relate to like, I've never wanted to do a job for more than 2 years or something like that. Or I've been in a job forever, but I've wanted to quit for so long, but I'm a scaredy cat. I mean, maybe the job is the problem, or maybe you are. And honestly, correction, you're definitely the problem, because to some degree, we're all the problem. Like, because we all bring some kind of like unhealthy crap or emotional immaturity or, lack of understanding or weird beliefs to a job experience. And then it makes it worse than it needs to be. That's human. Like, there's no judgment there when I say that you're definitely part of the problem.
No judgment. It just means you're a human. It just means you are a human who brings all your stuff. Now, the real question is, as you think about and approach your work differently, maybe in a more healthy way, is that enough to now make it a good fit for you? Yeah. Or is that there's nothing that you could do, in which case you need to bring your healthiest self to the next place?
Mm-hmm. But you can't know that until you get healthy.
No, you kind of have to do that work first.
And how awful would it be to I know this feeling, to keep quitting jobs over and over, thinking you just haven't found the right job yet. When
it is awful. And that's why a lot of people get to the point where they reach out to us. Right. They've done that so many times. They're like, at some point, maybe I'm the common denominator.
Maybe the solution is to work on myself first and figure out why this keeps happening. And I think we are proof, and many, many of the people that we've worked with are proof that when you address you first, like your desires and your triggers and your boundaries and your default settings, your talents, bad habits, emotional ups and downs, your identity, then a job or a relationship or anything that you really enjoy, and one that has staying power, importantly, is like the natural byproduct of doing that work.
Yes.
That's what coaching is all about. I told you it would come full circle. Mm-hmm. That's what this is about.
I've told my clients before, when they're just getting started with coaching, that I'll give them the example. Sometimes we go through coaching and you learn enough about yourself and about what you need, and you start to make some smaller tweaks to how you're doing things. Sometimes we don't even need to change your job. Now, they never believe me. And I'm not actually saying that happens even the majority of the time. Often it's a combination of, I need to get more clear on who I am and what I want and advocate for that. And it's probably also the wrong job. But I have had many instances where, when they got through their people pleasing, when they figured out what they wanted and actually spoke up about it and advocated for themselves, all of a sudden, the job was a pretty good fit. And nobody ever believes me. At the beginning of they're like, that's not going to be true.
A few people are willing to go, I don't know if it's me or not.
That's true. I've had a few who are like,
it could go either way. I just really don't
I'm
know.
open to that.
Yeah.
But there are some people who come and they're convinced the job's wrong. And I'm like, maybe we'll get there. I promise we'll get into it. But maybe we could do some things, and you might realize I've been approaching it in a way that's not sustainable. So that's all I'm saying is, we got to answer that question first. That's what we do in coaching.
We just gave
the first part of coaching is, who are you? How are you getting in your own way? What do you really want? What's aligned with you? How do we recognize that and not trip ourselves up and self-sabotage? Mm-hmm. Then we figure out what to do about all that.
Yes. We just gave you a laundry list of reasons that might be causing you to not feel aligned with your job, that are not about what you're doing. Mm-mm. Nothing we just said is about what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Okay? I could have added on a thing to that list that's like, well, are you interested? Are you good at it? So many people are like, do what you're good at. I'm like, did you see anything on that list? I don't care if you're good at it or not.
Align with your strengths.
No. Everything is about how you feel and how much you're getting in your own way and how clear you are and what your deeper values are and what your triggers are and what your beliefs are. That's all work that you can do without ever having to change anything on the surface first.
How many clients have we had who, after a couple of months of coaching, say, I feel completely different and nothing has even changed yet?
I mean, if I don't hear it, I'm disappointed. I got to hear it a lot.
And that doesn't mean change is not coming, because often
it is.
You got to change your internal world so that the external world can line up. it becomes a natural byproduct. But the great part is you don't have to wait for the
To feel
new job.
good.
You don't have to wait for the next thing to feel completely different. You can feel that way first. In fact, I would argue you have to. So that's why we do the deeper coaching process that we do. We are not here to just say, let's work on your resume and help you figure out what the next right job is.
Great. Well, good luck with that. Taking your identity issues and your daddy issues and your emotional immaturity to that next job. Let's see how well that works out for you. You'll be back in 3 months.
Exactly. We got to go to the root of the issue. And then whatever comes out of that is natural. There's no way it's not going to be better aligned.
It has to be. That's the law of physics. It just will be.
And that's why I trust this process so much. If we do the deeper work, everything else lines up with what we just identified.
Not only that, but you won't even need the next thing to be perfect because you'll be so much more content as a person that you'll be like, oh, wait, I can just I can tolerate something normal. And I don't mean underwhelming normal. I mean something that has its ups and downs, something that isn't always a 10 on every given day. There's such a relief in being able to just live like a normal person.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yes.
Like a healthy, normal
Ride the
person
waves in a healthy way.
Right. And your job isn't your everything. I mean, there's such relief in that. So, okay. If that sounds like work you want to do, this is your last day to apply to work with us in this period. If you do it later than that, that's fine. You'll just be added to the wait list and we'll talk to you when we talk to you.
We'll get back to you and we'll let you know what our schedules are looking like. But because I know some of you are not listening to this on the day it comes out. So just know if you're like, oh no, I missed out. Well, just reach out. We'll let you know.
Yeah. You can fill out an application form anytime.
But if you want to jump in and you don't want to wait much longer, I would say do it today.
Well, this is your this is your last day, really. So yeah, I mean, it's now or never. Get off the fence, people. I don't really care what direction you jump. Just don't sit on it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. Fence sitting is the most agonizing.
It's just procrastination.
It's like, yes, let's talk about it, or no, not now. Okay.
And again, it is a yes, let's talk about it. It's not a yes, I'm doing it. It's a yes, I want to have a conversation about this because this is what I need. I hear you talking and I'm realizing this is me and I think this is what I need. Let me talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're deciding. And we will be happy to talk to you and make sure it's a good fit.
Yeah. And trust that we're not going to be weird and pressury. Like, I don't want to pressure you.
Sometimes I pressure people not to do it. Yeah. So just so you know,
this is not like get on the phone with us and then we're going to,
sell you hard.
Like, I don't know if you've learned anything about me by listening to this podcast. I am not I'm not a manipulator in any way.
And you might think I am, and you might not be wrong, but I don't use my gifts like that. I'm just like, I don't want to work with you if you don't want to work with me.
I just genuinely want to have a conversation to say, is this the right thing? Is this the right time?
Yeah.
And if not, great. Maybe we reconnect later.
Yeah. I mean,
so yeah, you're not committing to sign up. You're committing to talk about it.
You have to be serious, but you don't have to be dead set. That's fine.
Yeah.
I can work with that. All right. So link in the show notes, also clarityonfire.com. There's a work with us tab. Look at one-on-one coaching there, fill out the form. Won't take you that long. And we will chat with you. Or if you find this later and you're like, whoa, this is the right time for me, but it's not at all May 2022 anymore. That's fine. Same link will get you to the wait list and we will talk to you. We'll tell you what our availability is like, whatever. So, okay. That's good. I think this was a very comprehensive conversation.
Yeah. I think we gave you a lot of food for thought.
And I think a lot of its intelligence made up for the fact that you couldn't say photography correctly earlier.
Photographizing, I think.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one. I'm going to put that one in the books.
That's almost as good as the time that you tried to write bundle and wrote bundle. And
we have a bonus in coaching in our short course called the Dream Job Bundle. And I wrote bundle. And so now we exclusively call it
the Dream Job Bundle. I think it's catchy. Okay. So we will return next Friday. Is this our expert interview?
I believe it is.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a really good one. I've been excited to bring her on the podcast. We're getting into perfectionism. And for any of you who are like, well, I don't really know if I'm a perfectionist, listen to this. I'm telling you, listen to this. Because I was the same way. I'm like, I don't really know if I'm a perfectionist. And I was called out in the best way.
Uh-oh. Well, then I know I'm going to be called out because if you are, I definitely am. Oops.
It's a little bit different than the way you might be imagining it.
Okay.
And we got like the expert to talk about like this is her whole spiel, and she's good at it. So
some of y'all be like clenching your little booties right now. Like, ooh, I don't know about that, but come back on Friday.
But if you're a little bit nervous, just know she's an Australian and she's got a beautiful accent. So at the very least, you want to come listen to that.
Yeah, that's nice. I'll just soothe you into getting over your perfectionism.
Exactly.
All right. See you then.
Bye.